It will be impossible for me to do a list of 10 dating couples without at least finding one who are in a long distance relationship. And you will agree with me that long distance relationships come with their own baggages and several challenges. So in this video, I'll be teaching you and giving you steps on how to navigate long distance relationships. So join me. Hi there, I'm Olushola and I give practicable wisdom. If it's the first time listening to me, I must say you've been missing out on a whole lot. Well, not to worry, it's never too late. So welcome to the club. And this is a very good time for me to ask you to kindly click on the subscribe button and also turn on your notifications. All right, I'll wait. Thank you. I won't be wrong to assume that for the longest, whenever people have relationship conversations, there's this unintentional tendency for us to overlook people who are in long distance relationships and the challenges that they might be going through in one way or another. There seems to be the focus on those who are seeing themselves every day, talking about physical compatibility and miss a number of other things. Well, today I'm here for you guys. Those of you who are having, or those of you who are currently in long distance relationships, I'm here to discuss the challenges that you might be going through. All right. However, I'd like to begin by reading out statistics. Do you mind? So join me. Right here, I have some evidence from a study done by the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships. Okay. Now, these particular studies have shown the following things. Number one, that 10% of couples started in a long distance relationship, that 75% of college students claim to have been in a long distance relationship at one point or another, that about 27% of couples said that they never lived near their partner from the start. And also about 50% of couples in long distance relationships met online. Also, we see here that about 37% of long distance couples break up within 3 months after closing the distance gap. And here's where it gets interesting. The average lifespan of a long distance relationship is just about 3.5 years. Then also, statistics have shown, the very same ones, that 50% of people in long distance relationships feel lonely. Then also, 55% of people in long distance relationships are concerned that their partners will or have already started seeing someone else. Right here are statistics that cannot be ignored. So in this video, I want to pick up the pieces bit after bit by looking at the different challenges that might surface in a long distance relationship. So let's dive right into it. Challenge number one, poor communication. So the issue with poor communication, first and foremost, are expectations. I strongly believe that when an expectation is not set prior, there's going to be an issue with people trying to meet up with expectations that they know nothing about. So there's this tendency, for the different genders involved to have certain expectations when going into a relationship. For example, I strongly am of the opinion that ladies are better, or do I say ladies have the tendency to want to communicate more frequently than men, for example. So there's that tendency where the lady is expecting you to call morning, afternoon, and night, and then you just feel by your estimation that, communicating once a day or twice a day just works fine for you. Well, I'll really say that there's no hard fast rule to it, or there's no right or there's no wrong. It just has to be what works for every single relationship at a time. So you're going to have to discuss it. What exactly are the expectations? You're going to have to discuss what your extreme cases will be and then find a middle ground, because relationships also are majorly about compromise. So it shouldn't be a case of this is what works for me, I don't care about what works for you. No, if you're going to have to make it work, you're going to have to compromise. You're going to have to meet in the middle. So I'd like you guys to discuss exactly what you would term an ideal communication every single day. Oh, okay, you know what? We're going to agree. We're going to check up on each other in the morning. In the middle of the day, we're going to send text to find out how we're doing. In the middle of work, we could steal some calls. However, also, I think the communication issue is also dependent on how the day of each person goes. So, for example, there's some, maybe she's far away having a master's in Hong Kong, and then you are in the United Kingdom, for example. So another issue that could also surface could be time zone, right? That's another problem. Some of the relationships that I've known around me that have had time zone issues usually have a very hard time keeping the relationship, particularly because of communication. So when he's asleep, she's awake. When he's at work, for example, she's wrapping up her day. When you are off work, she's about to go to bed. So there are issues like that. So I think you guys are going to have to reach a middle point and know exactly how you want to navigate. Also, your experiences could be different. One could be in school, the other could be at work. So when he wants to steal some minutes to say hello to you, you're probably in a lecture. So issues like that. So I'd like, first and foremost, for there to be an expectation. This is what I expect. This is what I can do at this point in time, because I'm working 12 hours a day. It is impossible for me to keep on checking in every single hour. You need to discuss it. Communication, I would say, begins by understanding the standpoint of the other person and then finding a middle ground. Yes, so I think you're going to have to discuss boundaries, right? Maybe I don't take calls at so and so point. I've seen a relationship where it's a taboo for the lady, for example, to call the guy when is at the office, because it's like a sackable offense of some sort, stuff like that. I've also seen a case where the guy can't call the lady, maybe because she works in a restaurant and her phone is off, and so many points in time. So just find out exactly what works. Okay. Then another thing I want to stress also that I think causes the issue when it comes to communication is the problem of what to say. Now, you'll be deceiving yourself by saying or thinking that at some point or another in a relationship, you've never had an issue of what to tell your person. You feel like how really or how shared our experiences or stuff like that. So what I want to say is this: you can create your own experiences. One of the major issues is because some people, maybe they come from different walks of life and they feel like in the entire talking stage they've spoken about everything they need to talk about and all, and maybe their days or what they went throughout an entire day might not be something that the other person can relate to, and then they want to shelf it. So what I feel first and foremost is the number one principle I would suggest to you is talk about everything. Talk about everything. Tell her what your boss did. Tell her what you encountered on the way to the office. Tell him every single detail about the party your colleagues threw for the other person. It's very important, because it's in the middle of these seemingly not so important conversations that you will bring up important principles and discuss them. Another thing that could also help is have shared experiences directly. You guys could pick up hobbies that you both love, and sometimes you might not have things that you both love, but you need to try to learn it. So for example, if he's a football fanatic like me, okay, you need to start to learn to watch some football in a way or another, or maybe just follow the scores and ask, oh, Manchester United this so and so at this point, you guys lost last week also, please, who scored? As little as that might seem, it could just be the defining factor in the relationship, right? I've seen cases where maybe ladies love Korean movies and then the guy naturally doesn't. But the moment the guy begins to watch the movie with her, it just changes everything. You can see I'm talking from experience, but no, maybe not. Yeah, but to be very candid, right? These things go a long way. Another aspect with poor communication, I would say, which I'd also think the most important, is how you guys express your feelings. Now, this is a word to guys more than the ladies. I think that one thing that I've noticed, right, in my years of maybe counseling people who are in relationships or preferring solutions to common relationship issues, is that men are a little bit more terrible communicators than ladies. The average lady kind of knows how to communicate her feelings, even though in an emotional way, but at least they do. They let you know exactly what is wrong at a particular point in time. Now, let me explain. They could be emotional about it, but I strongly believe that the average lady lets you, or they don't hide their displeasure or their excitement at given point in time, right? She might not tell you exactly what is making her displeased at the time. She might just from, no, it's fine, no, it's fine, and expect you to keep on probing till she talks, right? Yeah. But then for men, maybe because we are the less emotional of both, or we know how to suppress our emotions time in and time out, sometimes it could affect how communicative, quote and unquote, we are, right? So I just want to say this, right? This is one of the major issues with relationships. You need to learn to express exactly how you feel at a given point. And also because one interesting thing that long distance relationships take away could be your facial expression or your body language, right? The person can only see or know as much as you let the person know. You will be very criminal to accuse somebody of being insensitive when the person does not have a particular feeling to be sensitive to. You must give something for the person to react to. So I'd advise that guys, and even both of you, I'd say at this point in time, you need to learn to communicate exactly how you feel. If you feel a sense of disgust, say it. If you feel excited, let the person know. And I always recommend video calls. more than even audio calls. Video calls, at least, they give an extent, help you bridge that body language gap, that would have normally been existent if you were both physically present together. So yes, I hope this works. The second challenge I want to talk about is the issue of having no end date in sight. This, I would say, is, do I say, an unforgivable offense in a long distance relationship. Let me tell you something. The goal of any long distance relationship is not to remain a long distance relationship, right? The goal is to have an end to it. Every long distance relationship must be temporal in and of itself. The real goal of a relationship is to have, physical proximity, being there for one another day in, day out. So definitely every long distance relationship must have an end date in sight. So if there's no end date in sight, you're doing yourself more harm than good. Now, having an end date in sight will help you do several things. It will help you plan. It will help you, prepare specifically for a period of time. For example, let's say you guys are currently doing a long distance relationship, maybe because your spouse is away on for our masters. Let's say dating relationship now. Let's say your partner is away for our masters, and the master is supposed to be about 1.5 years. So you know fully well that all of your efforts you are putting is engineered towards containing that 1.5 year period, right? And also in that space, you can even think about that and say, we're going to see once, in the middle, maybe after 9 months of the entire 18-month period, we're going to meet in the middle and see each other for about 2 weeks. So having an end date in mind always puts things in perspective. It helps you, persevere with a purpose in mind. It helps you stay. It helps you wait for a specific period in mind. But not having an end date doesn't make sense. You can't just be in a long distance relationship with someone. We've been dating for 3 years. Okay, when are you guys getting married? We don't know. When are you guys going to start meeting in person? We are not sure. We are still away. We would think, no, that way it never works. It never works. You need to have a solution to it. So have an end date in mind. Dating purposefully means you have an end date to every long distance relationship. You must have an end date. The third thing I want to talk about is the problem of drifting apart. This happens a lot. And that's because, you see, long distance relationships can be lonely at times. It can truly be lonely at times because you are not just a human being who is in a relationship and in a long distance relationship, but alone where you are. No, you are in a particular space where you're seeing other people in non-long distance relationships living their best lives and doing several things. So there's usually that tendency for you to compare, right? Maybe you have a roommate who is seeing her boyfriend every single day, and then you are in that same space and your boyfriend is miles away, in 2 continents away. So that usually can bring a feeling of loneliness and several things. However, there's that problem of drifting apart. Now, what do you mean by drifting apart? There has to be a simple diagnosis for drifting apart. If at every single point in time you feel like the person you are in a relationship with is oblivious to your feelings, the person you're in a relationship with is away from you more than they ought to be. Right now, the thing is, they might be away from you physically. However, emotional connection is supposed to help you bridge that gap. But the moment you do not feel that emotional connection at every single point in time, there could be a sign, one way or another, of you guys drifting apart. Now, there are several ways to combat this. However, one other thing I've noticed that could be causing the drifts apart could be the exposure. Now, there's this tendency every once in a while that when people are in a dating relationship, particularly when they are apart from each other, they have different exposure. So a good example, you both were dating in Africa at some point, or let's say you both were dating in Nigeria at some point, and before you knew it, right, one of you had to relocate to a particular country that had maybe a given level of exposure, and then one that your spouse is not used to. So the exposure, or with the exposure comes a different perspective to things. So maybe you're beginning to see things you never thought. Life is giving you a different perspective to a particular issue or a challenge. One thing you need to learn to do is, for every single change in perspective that you record in your life, ensure that you carry your partner along. Because one of the things that make you in a relationship is because you both have shared goals, you both have shared exposures in one way or another. So the moment you begin to see things differently without letting the other person know, without carrying the person along, there begins to become a drift. Drifting apart means that there is what? No longer a synchronization. So you now leave each other and you begin to move away. And usually the drifting apart always starts, I'll put it this way, it's always mental first and foremost, then it becomes emotional, and before you know it, it begins to cause a ruckus in the relationship, right? So I would say that communication is really still the way out of drifting apart. It really is a way out of drifting apart. So there are several things that I think you need to do when you begin to drift apart. I think you need to talk about it. Apart from talking about it also, you need to have a clearer insight into the day-to-day activities of one another than ever before. So if that drift apart, first and foremost, was mental, how about the person takes you on a virtual tour to the person's classroom, at office, at school, to see exactly how things are like, okay? And how about you guys just share specific things? Another thing, when you drift apart, it could also be another invitation to a special period of bonding more than ever before. It could be a time for you guys to plug and binge watch a full-blown series together. It could be a time for you guys to take a leave off work just to spend time with one another. This is extremely important, because if you are really going to keep your relationship long distance as it is, it's going to require a lot of work. It's going to require a lot of work. So I'm going to wrap up with that at some point, okay? But that's it with the third point. And the fourth issue I want to address is the issue of insecurity and jealousy, right? Remember the statistic that we read earlier, which I want to bring back to your memory, right? The statistic says, and I quote, that about 55% of people in long-distance relationships are concerned that their partners are or will start seeing someone else. This is a very technical issue that must be dealt with, with some form of wisdom. I like to put it this way. It's pretty normal to feel that way, because you see, one of the sweet things about being in a relationship with someone is the physical connection that you both feel. And the physical connection, like it or not, is fueled by proximity, right? The closer you are to someone physically, the higher the chances of, more butterflies, building, cordiality and intimacy within one another. So definitely, when you're away from each other, there's a tendency that the drift apart will begin to threaten the intimacy that you both share. And my heart really goes out to married couples, for example, particularly who are apart, away from each other. Maybe a married couple migrated before the other and they've been apart for 2 years. Some don't even have an end date, as ridiculous as that sounds, which I think you should talk about and sort. My heart goes out to you, particularly because there's sexual relationship, in a married relationship, and it also really can affect things. You guys are used to having sex a lot together and being really intimate, and then all of a sudden there's no provision for that because of distance. So yes, there's that tendency that you guys will feel like one person might not be able to restrain themselves or abstain and might succumb or fall into the temptation. I think the major problem, or the first solution to this, is the end date issue again. Have an end date. If you have an end date of, let's say, 3 months, for example, you know fully well that I can hold every single part of my body, knowing fully well that in about 3 months, I'm going to unleash the dragon on this person when I see. Yeah, pretty hilarious. But there was this video that was trending about some weeks back of this Nigerian couple who relocated, right? They were in the United Kingdom. The woman was in the United Kingdom, and then the spouse, the husband, and 2 sons were in Nigeria. And I think after a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken, they finally reunited. And then the video shows them at Heathrow Airport, Heathrow Airport, London, United Kingdom, of them meeting for the first time. And the video was showing, the husband and the wife, meeting each other, and then the wife was barely letting go of her husband. And then some people started to bring up several jokes that, the kind of intercourse they're going to have that night is going to be so resounding that it might be heard in Buckingham Palace. My God, really, really, really hilarious, right? But that's the truth. You can't let go of the whole intimacy thing. So I'll just say, have an end date. Don't stop winging it. There's a limit, there's a threshold. There's a threshold to which you might begin to start thinking about where things. Why, for God's sake? I've seen cases where husband and wife are apart for 10 years. I'm not joking. In fact, I know of one family friends, right? They were apart for so long that it led to a divorce because one could not let go of the other. They could not stay apart for as long as, so many issues. So I'll say end date works. Then number 2, communicate your feelings. Communicate your feelings and find exactly how to solve the problem. So one of the ways you can bridge the physical touch aspect of intimacy is by being more intentional with maybe words of affirmation, right? Another thing I also tell you to do is never forgo the romantic ideas that you once had when you were both in person. Who told you that because you're now in a long distance relationship, you should forget about gifting your spouse or gifting your partner? In fact, it's the more reason why you should gift. So when, it's the same way when one of your 5 senses is dampened, maybe someone who cannot see, for example, your other 4 senses are heightened. When you take away the gift of sight, the person can hear better, the person can feel and touch better. In the same way, I can use similar, analogy for the 5 love languages. Okay, the moment one or the capacity or the ability to do one is away, ensure that the other 4 are heightened. If you cannot touch the person physically, ensure that you do some acts of service for the person. Ensure that you gift. Intentionality will help you do the right things and understand what you need to put in place at a particular point in time. So yes, gift the person things, spend more time together, tell the person sweet things. If you're married, you could also revisit some of your old time memories. Yes, you should. Tell the person, whatever you might would do, tell the person about it, and then that side is going to keep on continuing. Yeah, but I hope you get the drift, right? And to the bonus points, which is my final point, and which some of you might regard to be even the most important thing I'm going to say, is that long distance relationships require more work than any other kind of dating relationship. It's going to require a lot of work, a lot of intentionality, a lot of fighting for one another. You're gonna have to see the essence and the purpose of the entire thing and ensure that you're sticking with each other, regardless of the differences in your experiences and regardless of the distance and the miles in between the both of you. This is extremely important. If love is truly in the way, you'll find a way. You will find a way. If love is truly involved, you will find a way. So that's what I want to say. You will find a way. As long as there's an end date in time, with a lot of intentionality and purpose behind it, I'm sure that you will find the middle ground and find a way to make these things work. All right, thank you so much. And that leads me to the very end of today's video. I really do hope that I've been able to express, succinctly, the very breathings of my mind. And I hope that this also helps every single one of you who might be having challenges in your long distance relationships. Okay, and ensure that you document the testimonies and share them to me. All right, thank you so much, everyone. And this is also a gentle reminder that if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, you are in the wrong. Kindly do so right away. And also ensure you like this video to ensure that it reaches a whole lot more people. Now, don't forget to share it with your friends and any other person who can relate to this video. Thank you so much. My name is Olushola, and it's been a pleasure. And I can like to end my videos. Ireo.